I'm gonna start off with something. I was doing my C license and we were talking about like games and like what happens in a game, like game day, what has to happen before the game day even happens. And the person that was doing the seminar was asking us like, hey, what like stats can you take like as a coach if you're alone watching the game? I'm thinking to myself, dude, as one coach, none. Like that's a really tough
What was
thing.
the question again?
What stats, what data can you take that could like help you in a certain game? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm so focused on the game and like what's going on that I don't necessarily have time to like be jotting down things. Now I will say one of the things that I'll say that I have more like specific cues depending on the age level. So for like the younger 7v7, I'll say like shape, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be one of my main words. So make sure that you already know not to get bunched up, right?
So when he's talking about taking stats, is he talking about taking stats on yourself, or is he talking about taking stats of the team?
Of the team and what's happening in the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what would you think is something that you as a coach, let's say during your high school season, what stat, first of all, could you have tracked during a game? And second of all, would have benefited you in a game?
So I would start with that, of like everything else that I usually say, this is a situational based stat based upon the behaviors you want to see more of in your team. So let's say that my team was having a trouble maintaining possession in the opponent's box or even trying to get possession in the opponent's box. One of the stats that I'd probably be taking then is how many touches a game do we have in the opponent's box. And I would, through the next course of a couple weeks, be not only letting them know, like, hey, I'm tracking this stat in the last few games. These are the numbers that I've seen. It's gone up or down. Through the week, we would talk about why we're trying to get more touches inside the box and how to do that. And then if after 3 or 4 weeks that number has improved and that, you know, the overlaying concept here is that the behavior changes and now they're starting to attack into the box more naturally, then I can change what the stat that I'm focused in on is. I think taking too many of like different stats could be misleading information and maybe direct your focus in a place for the team that it doesn't need dramatically right now. Or you could see it like, I'm this type of coach and I pay attention to this type of stat a lot because I like to work on this part of the game. But personally for me, it's about like, well, I want to see my team improve at this subject or this action. Well, what kind of stats back a team that's doing that successfully? And then how do I present that to the team to say, hey, we want to focus on increasing this stat? And then periodically maintaining like the number, like make sure they know where do they stand and how are we improving or not based upon the stat that we're focused on. So like I said, it's situational based at the beginning.
So that must be a next level thing to like actually like have your pen, your piece of paper while the game's going on. You're like focused on this thing.
Well, this is a next level thing,
and that's not even for like one. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, I interrupt.
It's not even for like one game because at that point you're like breaking it down to let's say 4 games, which would be 2 weeks. And now that's like a whole goal that we're trying to achieve in these 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that brings it from a, how do you say it, from a micro standpoint to a macro standpoint, and again, it's almost like back and forth. But I will also say this, it is kind of a next level thing, and I'll ask you if you remember one of the things I would tell the players that in an ideal game day, what my behavior would be. Do you remember what I would tell players that on an ideal game day, I would be doing what?
I'm a little quiet, first of all.
And where would I be?
Sitting
where would
down
I tell?
on the bench.
And so like in an ideal game day, so you're laughing because it never happens. On an ideal game day, I say that to players because that means that they're doing things really, really well, and I don't need to interject or give coaching points to see them do better. In fact, like I say before, the game is the test, the week is when I'm teaching. Now I can actually sit down, have my notebook out, and take stats.
When's the last time you did that though?
It's got to be at least. Let's say each season's about 15 games, an average. Let's just put it there.
Yeah.
It's probably less. It's like 12. I probably get 1 to 2 out of those 12 to 15 games a year per season per team that I actually get to sit down, watch, and take notes. And like you said, this is next level stuff. It is, because even after 10 years of coaching, I still struggle
You still get
to manage
invested
this behavior.
in the game.
To manage this behavior. And it is really, really helpful when we were coaching together and you were on the sideline. Because there were moments that, and maybe I wouldn't sit down and write in my notebook, but there were moments where I could then address one-on-one people and know that there was still attention, energy, and focus put on the game taking place.
Yeah, which I think is very important. And like once, dude, you know something one of my pet peeves that I absolutely hate is that, and this would be like in a team that I'm the sole or the only coach. I'm the only one on the sideline. Whenever I like turn my attention away from the game, something happens.
Yep.
Either we score or we get scored on. One of those two, and I'm like, explain to me, like break it down, like what just happened? And everyone's like, oh, well, trying to piece it together because they weren't really involved.
You'll never
as well.
get an explanation as detailed as seeing it.
No,
right?
exactly. That's something that I've said this before. I'm still working on that because the moment that I go here, something happens. And I
Or
don't
if
like
you
that.
turn around and address the bench. Or...
Yeah, something happens. I'm just like, damn.
Yeah, no, I had a bad habit of missing certain things when I turned my back to it. It's like a little bit of like a coaching curse. And like, so the second that you do take your eyes off of it, you know what? There's just like the soccer gods standing up there that are full awareness of it in this moment, and they're like, punished. You've been punished.
They punish you from not being able to see a goal of my team. Like, keep
your eyes on the game.
That's fair. And I mean, since we're talking about stats, you know, there was 2 games this international break that had pretty good stats. The first one, it was a big matchup, 2 heavyweights in their own right. Germany versus France. Germany scored a goal in the first 7 seconds of the game.
Yeah, that was...
And it was funny because
news.
A fan was taking a video of like the kickoff, and they're like sitting down with their buddies, talking about the game, whatever. Just, let's see how it's gonna happen. You don't expect a goal in the first 10 seconds.
Not especially with those 2 names.
All of a sudden, boom, goal, and everyone just starts, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
What a goal.
Yeah, they saw it, but they hadn't even digested it yet. They're still sitting into their seats, saying their hellos.
Yeah,
Give first sips of
water.
cerveza.
Diet Coke. As Chief was saying, you know.
Yeah, first sips of some Diet Coke and some Dr. Pepper, and then bam, goal. They were 1-0 up. And France and Germany, if you don't know, it's quite the rivalry. They have always had quite the rivalry
Just because of being good, 2 big powerhouses, I feel like.
Yeah.
Powerhouses always, they always want to beat each other, you know, for the bragging rights and different cultures, you know. They've had some background in their history.
I would also say because in the past, Germany was an incredibly successful international team and brand and won quite a lot. And now France has really started to step up and take over that persona and perception. And they're so close in countries and adjacent to each other, and they're like competing for the last, 100 years for this titles. Now France has, like, if you put France versus Germany, what does your gut tell you who's going to win?
Oh, France. And going back to the question, they got the superstar, right?
Yeah.
They got probably one of the best guys in the world right now.
Correct.
So, like, you gotta back him, especially in those games where sometimes a superstar makes a difference, especially the way he plays.
You ask me, France has a couple superstars.
Yeah.
And Germany has some as well.
You better not say Kai Havertz.
No. We're talking about superstars. That we're gonna say Tony.
Thank you.
Is one of them. Tony's one of them.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. He's got one of that on his. Mueller, if he's in the group playing, he's one of them.
I think he's a little past his prime.
Maybe, but this is a guy scores goals, gives assists, does defending, does attacking, good passer, the balancer, and probably one of the best versatile balancers in the game. So
I'm a fan of the guy that scored the goal, Florian Wirtz.
So I don't know much about this guy.
That guy is flying at Leverkusen, and he's like that. He's like the number 10 superstar, and you know how to play double 10. He's just the one. He is probably one of the. I haven't seen how many games and whatnot, but from the highlights that I do see, he's like always on the field, either on one side of the 10 in the half space, or the other side.
For Leverkusen.
Yes.
Yeah. And how many?
Flying with Xabi Alonso.
Does he have a ton of reps with Germany, or is he like some
I
of
think
his
he's
first
barely.
reps?
I think he's starting to get picked up by.
I say reps, but caps is what they're called.
Yeah.
In football.
I think he's starting to get picked up.
So he's starting to get his first few caps for
Yeah.
the team. Well, this is where I go back and say, like, France has quite a lot of, like, good players on that team and depth within the team.
I think that's their biggest.
And they're all relatively young, too. Their average age is young, they have depth, and there's superstars and an immense amount of quality and depth. Where Germany, I think, has a starting 11 plus 3 or 4 guys that can match this caliber of France, but maybe it's not across the board.
No, and then it dies out.
And I'm not going to say that the result says it right there, that France isn't necessarily better than Germany on every given day, because on this given day, Germany was better than France. But if I'm taking, they're going into a big tournament, and I have to pick one or the other, my gut leans towards France, even now, that Germany's 1-2-0, because they've earned that reputation and respect inside of my gut. I've watched them play for the past 3 or 4 years.
So it goes back to the conversation we were
amazing.
having with Chief, like the hierarchy of some teams, you can't discredit them, even though they may have had a blemish or two here or there, whatever. They still have that pedigree that, like, people know what they're about, people know what they're going to bring, and that's who they've became, not just from a game or two, but from the past, 2018, 6 years now?
Yeah, and
when
Germany
they won the
knows
World
it.
Cup?
Germany knows it. They know they're on the down slope, and France knows they're on an up slope. And so I think also, Germany wins 2-0, and they probably were celebrating quite a bit, even it being a friendly, because they probably found a lot of pride in being France.
So I asked you that off camera. Do you think that, conceding a goal in the first 7 seconds kind of shows like you weren't ready?
Yeah, that was my initial. That was my initial response, and my gut reaction was like, well, that's really ugly and bad, because for being the top national team, for being the top quality players that you are, like, even my 7-year-olds know that when the game starts, you're at 100 or more.
No, and you just see the back line just standing there. No one steps to where the ball is, and then, well, if you're going to give a player of top quality space outside the box, well, what is he going to do?
Well, no one stepped, and the line stayed a line, and in my opinion, it's like, you can't, at the highest level, allow for that kind of behavior to take place. And your question was like, does it matter that it was a friendly and happened? And I'm like,
I said, do you think it being a friendly affected their readiness for the game?
Yeah, and in my gut, I said it doesn't really matter to me, because at the highest level, you shouldn't differentiate between friendly and cup final when it's a big game against a big team. When the kickoff kicks off, you're in it 120%. So whether it did or didn't, it's kind of an unacceptable behavior, or
it's an excuse almost for their behavior.
And one of the things that I want to talk about in the future are excuses. It's like, and I'll just mention it briefly. I think coaches are in the business of managing excuses, and you can call them reasons. You can call them
us making excuses, or the players to us.
The players, the programs, the parents, we have to manage all kinds of reasons and why they couldn't make it, be committed, do the action, take place in, all of those things. Coaches have a constant slew and train of messages coming in telling them, I can't this, because of, and you have to be able to work through those and balance them and make sure you can manage them, and compromise in certain situations, and these
That's
are
a very
things.
that's a very like situational specific
Yeah,
question.
but at the same time, it's one of those things where I feel like it's normal with humans to have to manage these things and to have reasons where we need other things. But I also think it's an abnormal amount of managing their coach has to do for those excuses. So, and then we'll go back to like this game, France and Germany. I think that the behavior in this game was really, really poor because as soon as the kickoff took place and they dropped it right inside the line, there were 3 French players here, 2 on the other side of the ball, 5 players in the area that could step and apply pressure and had maybe 2 moments to do so to block this goal from taking place, and none of the 5 did. So, physically, cognitively,
And
weren't
you
ready
said
for this
it. You
game.
said it as well. You were like, that just looks bad on them.
Terrible.
Not even on the players, but I mean the coaching staff itself. Were like, it's so relaxed, so nonchalant, so like, we're just going out here to play, show for the fans. Like, wouldn't you want to give, especially because I think France was in home soil. Wouldn't you want to give your fellow countrymen something to like be proud about and something to enjoy and something to have fun about? I don't know. Imagine everyone in the stadium. They'd be like, "What is this going on?"
Yeah.
What
I
is
bet
going
that
on?
shocked everybody in the stadium.
Yeah.
And if you think that now you're going to get 2 to 3 goals past Germany through this game easily, you got another thing coming. Because
No,
that
'cause
team
they're
is
already-
good.
And they're already
This is-
right in that high of what we just scored in the first 7 seconds. It's like,
This is far from a weak team. This is a team that will do damage to you the second you give them the space to. Like in any tournament or cup. So, and I know that the Germans aren't sitting there thinking this is a friendly and let's go easy on them. I know that. So there's no reason that France should have came out with that energy like, oh, just go through, let's start the game. It'll be fine. We'll see how the first minutes go.
all right.
Go
then
ahead.
Final question about this game. At what age do you think friendlies begin to matter? Because, like you said,
Matter in what way?
that's up to whatever you believe. Because a friendly, let's say, between an A team and a B team may not matter for the A team because they're already there. But for the B team of whatever club, that friendly may matter so much because then it's their opportunity to show who they are versus the top dogs.
Let me just say it like this. And in an ideal situation, I think I've said it before. In an ideal situation, clubs would do internal scrimmages a lot more than they do. But in an ideal situation, which I know doesn't exist in regular Southern California clubs, is that those intramural scrimmages would be closed door scrimmages, like sessions that can't be attended. You can only drop your son off. They can step onto the field. They'll play this intramural, intramural scrimmage. Then you come and pick them up. And that game was only for the eyes of the players and the coaches involved of those teams.
That's a great point.
Once that's the environment that you have set up, I feel like it doesn't matter what team you are. These scrimmages are super beneficial for both parties. And we can go through the many variables and outcomes of the result and say exactly why. If the top team beats the B team and they did it in good fashion, they played a game they were supposed to at that level and handled it. If it went the other way and they lost the game, now there's pressure that could be put on that A team to the game. Hey, man, if you're going to be on this group, this is what you need to do.
It's all about the framing because you could frame it both ways, right?
Of course.
So I think if, as an organization, if it is done properly, then there's only benefit to it.
Yeah, for the most part, I don't see any real negative adverse effects. Like, we do it quite often when I was at the Residency Academy in Arizona, and it was one of those things that normally when we'd go and play the A group, obviously the results weren't in our favor, but the things that we could pull out of those games they were helping us collectively grow
because you're going
as a
up
team.
against a whole nother level of player, you know?
Now,
So for those players, I can imagine that being a massive growing experience.
Yeah, it's
for
not
them.
just the player, it's the team. We're going up against a whole nother level of team. So it's showing a lot more collective areas in which we need to be better. Now, if one of their players takes out 4 or 5 of mine and scores, we're going to throw that to the wash bin. Because I know all that means is one-on-one defending from my players in those situations. But there's a lot more that could be grabbed from it in that 90 minutes. Now, I say these things should be closed door because there are also moments where your beat players punch up their weight, and they're punching over their weight and competing in these games. But for those of us in the business, we know that even if on one good day they're there punching above their weight,
One good day.
this doesn't mean that they have any chance or opportunity necessary to go above. And vice versa, if that's taking place, any one individual or collective team that is a group doesn't mean that they need to be picked apart or scrutinized or overly criticized and moved down. And so making this thing a closed door thing allows for the people who are taking place in the teams and know in depth where everybody stands to see, practice, learn, engage, and grow with the club itself. This builds a camaraderie in your club as well, your age groups.
Oh, for sure.
Like, hey, all the 17s are coming in. All the coaches of the 17s are coming in. Nobody's allowed except for us. We're going to spend the day doing round-robin style games. We're not mix and matching. We're taking the teams and we're putting them up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And despite level, we're aware of what we're supposed to see and then what happens and takes place. And based on those two differences, we're going to adjust the way that we're going to handle the teaching.
I think that's a great way to put it, closed door.
It has
Because
to.
once it gets open door, then there's too many
Expectations.
political things that come into effect.
Yeah,
And-
expectations adjust. And we do it simply not to do that. Like, we do it for the players' benefit to have a good day game. But we're not sitting there for our expectations to adjust. We are, just like anybody else, curious to see what happens when we put them up against each other. We're excited to see those things. In fact, we might even have more excitement than parents may think. But it doesn't adjust our expectations anywhere close to what it would for a party on the outside, you could say. Any of the parties on the outside.
Going to the next game. Brazil, England. Two more absolute powerhouses.
Yeah,
We had a good international break. You know, the theme is always F international break.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, literally 10 podcasts ago, you were screaming
Yeah.
F international
Yeah, no, but
break.
that's the theme always.
And now you're here like, all right.
Well,
got a
it's
good
because we
one.
got good matchups.
I hate
You know, when they
Don't
put
hate
like
it.
when they put like Peru against Bolivia as like the top of the weekend, it's like, come on,
Hey, man, they gotta play sometime.
come
There
on.
are qualifiers that are needed.
No,
These things
but
gotta happen.
now we get to see some giants play before a big tournament, like you said, and my boy, my Real Madrid boy, Endrick, got the winner against
Yeah,
England.
you were just mentioning him. You were just mentioning him not too long ago, and this boy is. Well, I haven't thought too much of him. Just seen him play like a few times,
And you
but
got the clips, the
when I-
fancy clips.
I
on-
haven't
on
seen the
YouTube.
goal he scored yet. I have not. I'm excited
Mm.
to see it. But what I did see was when the notification came in that it was a 1-0 game to Endrick, and he came in on the 71st and scored on the 80th. This was big time, yo. This is like, and I like the next couple statements that came
Here you go,
out.
quick one.
I like the next couple statements that came out for Endrick was like, I'm living my career mode now. Yeah, I saw him say something. Yeah, and he
It's a
gets
tap-
the tap
it's a
in,
tap
and he
in, but-
follows it in.
But here, for me, look, everyone always says, oh, you know, Ronaldo scores tap-ins, whatever. Dude, get in that position. If you don't get in the position, then are you scoring that?
Yeah,
No.
I don't think that has it. It's more the story that it for me is special for Endrick. Like, very young kid steps into Brazil, first day out there, first sub in, late sub in, gets a goal. This is like fairy tale story brewing kind of stuff. And another statement I read of him was like, quote of his was like talking to his brother in the quote was like, "Hey, little brother, like I met Bellingham, the really good Bellingham. They all call him Jude. So I told him the next time I score, I'm going to do his celebration." and it was like in a text to his little brother, and he's like keeping him up to date about
That is
what's going on.
That is like
And then in
the
Brazil,
dream. That is the
in the
dream.
Brazil game, he does it against who?
That is the dream of ballers,
He
though,
scores
right?
against England and does the Jude against England, and it is the dream of ballers to
No,
be able to make it
you
and
know
tell
what?
your little brother, "This is what I'm doing."
You
check
know
this
what
out."
that reminds me of?
Shoot.
Remember the Nike commercial where this guy gets picked up by Arsenal and he starts playing against Arsenal and whatnot? That gives me that vibe.
And they show what this is what it's like in training, and
Exactly.
Arson, and you go here, yeah.
And then getting scored on by Ronaldo, and you know that guy is
Of course,
living
that part is
the
what you
dream.
mentioned.
living the dream. And for him to do it away from home before he makes a move to Real Madrid is just, bro, his stock before even getting there.
Yeah, his stock
is
just
next
went up
level.
big time. And you know that Senor Perez is now sitting over there like, yeah, we got a real Madrid man. You know, the words, Endrick is a Madrid man, will come out of his mouth in the next 2 months, I guarantee it.
1000%.
He loves to say that. He loves to say that. When he's
1000%.
found somebody that's a Madrid guy, this guy's a Madrid guy, 100%. Through and through.
And you already
Madrid
know.
man. Madrid man.
Vinicius probably influencing that.
Yeah.
Rodrigo definitely influencing that. I really hope that he gets to meet the old timers, you know, like Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. Hopefully they can stay so that he can soak up that energy from him. But I mean, imagine Real Madrid next year.
I don't have to. They're scary already.
Mbappe, Endrick, Vinicius, Jude, Rodrigo. Oh my gosh.
I hope for whatever reason Mbappe doesn't make it. Seriously, I don't know.
Well, where would he go?
I don't know, but I don't know if football can handle this, like Madrid team.
No.
I don't know if football can handle this Madrid team. I think that City might, but
Well, now that we're talking about City, I think we just could go straight into that big matchup that's going on this weekend. A very big one, not only for the title race, but for you and I, you know? It's a very special game.
yes, it is. What is it?
On your what? 29th birthday? 30?
You just want me to say it? I'll say it, man, alright? The game is on my 30th birthday.
Oh.
It's Arsenal versus Man City.
Oh.
It is if not the biggest game of the year, it is the first or second biggest game of the year that we'll have the entire year.
For
Arsenal.
Yeah,
If we win, you'll be paying for my all-I-can-eat sushi. And I say if, but when we win, you'll be paying for that because we made a bet months ago, and I said by March 31st, my team would be ahead of yours on the table.
All right.
And
did you calculate?
Technically,
Did you calculate like the date, or did you just think March 31st just because?
no, I truly looked at when you played City and when I played City, and then made it after we both played City because I know that if
fair.
I hadn't, you would have called that out.
Well, yeah, that is some.
So, and then
some
it just
snaky,
happened to be on my birthday.
Yes.
I get it. So then it just happened to be on my birthday. But I will say this. The bet was originally that my team would be at the top of the table on that day. And I want to point out, up until Sunday on March 31st at 8:30 a.m., my team was on the top of the table on March 31st.
Guess what? The majority of the day, of that day, my team will be on the top of the table.
After we win, you don't know that. And I think that, realistically, I think Walker got pulled out of his England game, hurt. I think that Ederson got hurt
Saka's
really
out.
bad in the game that City played last in the Premier League.
Liverpool.
So if there was a game where this fixture was in our favor, in this particular moment, this City-Arsenal matchup is in our favor.
Well, you know, an Arsenal fan that we saw this weekend did say that City's back line does look shaky. I remember last year, Walker wasn't in the back line for Man City. I think they played Akanji, Stones, Ruben Diaz, and what's the other one with the dreads? Okay, that was their back four, and that was a very big physical first time that's a Pep uses 4 center backs actually, big strong guys. So may or may not be a good or bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing for City.
I don't
They
think
can
that
actually
has
push Walker out of the starting 11.
I don't think that has any effect on this game whatsoever because they've been playing this way all year. That was last season. They haven't played that way
Well,
in
last
an
season
entire
they won
year.
the treble.
But they haven't played that way this year. So what are they going to do? Switch back to that?
Why not?
Because this is the biggest game of the year. They're going to switch to
Well,
that.
you already said Walker's gone.
But they're
so
gonna
what are they going to do?
I don't know. But they're going to switch to something they haven't
They're not
done
going
in
to
the whole year.
They're not going to put in a
the top team in the
teenager
league.
Rico Lewis. He's not going to play.
I bet you he's on the field.
You think Rico Lewis is going to start?
I didn't say that. I said I bet you he gets on the field. Because Pep being Pep puts that kind of kid in a game like that. Now here's the deal. I think that City's defense is just fine. I think that City's goalkeeper, I watched him play, had a really good game when he had to come on for Ederson. But I don't think he's going to be able to withstand the pressure of Arsenal.
He's at home though.
2.5 goals per game
withstood
average.
the whole pressure of Anfield. Anfield at a full Jurgen Klopp's leaving effect. That adds like a times 5 multiplier to it. You know what I'm saying?
Consistency is the hardest thing to do in football. He did it once, but can he do it again? And I think we're going to out this guy. And I think he's going to be outed. If City has to turn around and play him multiple passes throughout the game and he has to manage pressure throughout the game, I think we're going to out this guy. I think we're going to pick his pocket and we're going to put one away and it's going to change the game.
You know, I would love nothing more than that happening. I could just clip this. Like, this happened Monday, March 25th, exactly 6 days before the game. My boy Zach already called it out. He's like a time traveler.
We'll see, maybe.
What's going to be the final score, Mr. Time Traveler?
Either 3-2 Arsenal, 2-1 Arsenal.
Wow.
Neither scoreline is going to be easy. This game is not going to be
The Liverpool game was 1-1, right? I'm going to say, again, Liverpool against City was 1-1.
Yeah, it was. It was 1-1.
So I think it's going to be 2-2 Arsenal City.
Mm-hmm.
Tie at the Etihad.
We're going to win.
Look at you, because you had the Arsenal jacket on. Ni modo que digas que no.
One of my best players got me this jacket. One of the best players that ever played for me. It's Donovan Hernandez. He's a good player, kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's a man now.
Of course you're gonna say that when you're repping Arsenal. Of course. You know, I'd be hating if you didn't.
Top of the league in about a week.
No.
And I mean solid top of the league. I don't mean like by goal differential. I mean like we got points.
Yeah, when one of the Arsenal fan tweets like went viral and it was like lonely at the top and you guys are tied in points.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, come on now. Come on. Lonely at the top would be like 10 points, like a Madrid Barca aspect, or like
I think
multiple games in between.
I think it's gonna be really interesting come April for Arsenal.
So that's the next question. Playing in 2 competitions, like as an inexperienced team, and what I mean by inexperienced is this team has not won a major trophy yet. So they don't have all of that big game experience, or at least triumphing in those big games experience yet.
Mm-hmm.
Can an inexperienced young team, young coach, deal with both fronts that are massive challenges? That being the Champions League, where you guys are in the tougher side of the bracket, and going up against Giants, and the Prem, where you've got the Klopp times 5 multiplier, you've got the Pep Guardiola machine trying to go 3-peat in the Prem. True, right? Or are they going for the 4-peat now?
Who cares? Can Leverkusen win in the Europa?
That game?
Yes or no? Can Leverkusen win in the Europa?
Who can't?
Okay, so then that's
can
the answer.
Dortmund win the Champions League?
So then that's my answer to the question in which you just asked me. A young team with a young coach with a lot of talent who hasn't won it can. Because who
Wow,
can't?
but there's levels.
Yeah, there
There's
are
levels to this game.
And Arsenal
Because
is on another
Xabi
level
Alonso-
than Leverkusen.
Xabi Alonso, this is his first full season as a coach.
And this is Arteta's fourth with this team. So
Well,
they are
that's-
better suited.
But that's what I'm saying. There's levels to it.
Yeah, and we're in the next level. And we have next level players. You
I
can't even
don't
deny
see
it.
I don't see Arteta going 40 games unbeaten in his first full season.
We're also in the Champions League and they're in the Europa. We're at the next level. You can't deny it. You can say it, you can feel like that, but we're at the next level and they are not. They are sitting at the Europa. They are playing in the Bundesliga. We play in the Prem. We're in the Champions League. There's levels to this. They're a level below us.
Oof.
He's a newer coach than Arteta. So, when again I say, what is the answer to your question? It's simple. A young team who hasn't won big trophies can. How do they do it? They got to show up every single game,
Oh.
day in and day out. And I've even expressed to you that my concern for my team is in April when we go through City. When we go through...
Let's see. Just looking at it. The final day of March, you have a game. April 3rd, you have a game. April 6th, April 9th, April 14th, 17th, 20th, 23rd, 28th. You're talking about 9 games in the span of 30 days. 31 days, let's put it, because you're going to play Man City, Arsenal.
And we can talk
9 games in 30 days.
There's two serious legs of moments there. Is we got to get over the City, and then as soon as we can get over the City, we have to do something we've never done in our history, which is knock out Munich. And if we can get over those two initial mountains, which are both like Mount Everests in front of us, which I believe we can, then we're going to have to press the reset, focus back into the Prem, and we're going to have to handle a Chelsea-Tottenham double. And Tottenham's coming to ruin our season. They hate our guts. Their whole season's over. They are planning all of their chips to come show up to that game and say, we hate you, we won't let you have the Premier League. If we beat you, you're screwed. And that's what I think they're lining up all of their soldiers to do, because they can go home happy knowing they screwed us.
Especially at home. At home. Imagine they got to be able to defend their home.
I have just as much anxiety or nervousness or worried about that Tottenham game that I do the double over Munich and the game against City, because of how that they're pushing all of their energy into that. And then if we can manage to do this and get through this whole month, what are we rewarded with? Either Real Madrid or Man City again.
Ooh.
If we can manage to get through all of this, we either have to see City for another double, which would make it 5 games in the year counting the Community Shield, or we have to go see Madrid, who we've only ever beat once. And, mind you, after we beat a team like Munich, who we've never beat in the double like this.
That year you guys beat Munich and Madrid to go to that final?
No. What I'm saying is we have never beat Munich in a double.
Yeah.
And that we've only ever beat Madrid once.
With your prime superstar.
Ever.
Prime moment,
And it
Henry.
was on the superstar who to do a superstar thing for us to get through that. And so, this is an interesting situation. I think that I said to you, and I know it's a hot topic, or you could call it a controversial statement, but I think that Arsenal is going to have to focus in on one or the other. And I think that the one that they focus in on, they have to make sure they get. And it's like a...
Let's say they should focus on the easier one. Which one would you call the easier one?
Neither. Neither are easy. And that's when you ask the City's done this 3 or 4 times in a row. I don't care. It is so hard to do. If you were asking me which one I would prefer personally, I would prefer us going and winning a Champions League.
I think yeah.
Because it's one of those things
you got to break the seal.
Well, I have confidence in us competing in the Premier League for many years to come. I really do. But I know getting to the end of a Champions League and winning that cup is so bloody hard to do, and we haven't done it once, that the taste of that will only propel my team into many more leagues to come.
I think that's the major fact.
What
that
are
being
they thinking?
The actual top of all, not just England, of all Europe, that'll just give them more fire. That'll make other players want to go to you because they know you're the top dog. They know that you're not the bottler anymore. Sorry.
That happens.
You are the top dog. And that happened with Liverpool after they got to the Champions League final. They were able to attract better players. It's going to happen to whatever team that can make those strides in a big competition.
It's a hard thing for me because if we go and we win the Prem, I think we'll still have this feeling in our house where people and players will want to come because they think we are capable of winning a Champions League. But only for how many more years to come until we win a Champions League. And then the other side of it, like I had just stated, if we go and we win the Champions League, I think guaranteed.
The Prems are like inevitable.
No. And so that's how I come to that conclusion. And I really feel like you go over a double on Munich, you go over a double on Madrid, that's a statement. And then who we get to see on the other side at Dortmund, another Atletico Madrid, a Barca or a PSG. And honestly, against those four, I feel confident.
Oh,
I feel like any of those four.
Whoever gets through on that side has majority chance to win.
Agreed. And if by miracle, and I mean miracle, because I know that I have the disadvantage going through this side of the bracket, that we arrived to that final, I really would feel confident. I would feel confident that that cup is ours going into that final. Because the real mountain is the Munich Real Madrid fight.
I will say one thing that I like about the Arsenal squad is how the coaching, everyone on the coaching staff is part of it. And I don't know if you see that like in every single team, but like even the physio, even the team doctor is there celebrating with Arteta when they score a goal.
They have a team motivator that's on the sideline every game. His name is like Carlos Cueta or something like this, and I follow his personal account. Okay. And he's literally the guy that goes in and works with the mental and emotional of the first team, and he's right 2 seats down from Arteta every single game.
Is he the one with the iPad?
He is.
Okay.
And he's young. He kind of looks like Arteta. He's got the slick back hair. And he's a young guy, and he just motivates the player. He's the hype guy all game long. And then if somebody mismanaged their emotions in the game, the person to address this is him. He's the coach that manages that.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, like you said, with these 9 games in hand, in front of them, they're gonna need some miracles going on in the gym, some extra ice baths, extra cold therapy, extra sleep, extra good food, all of this stuff. You wanted to talk about recovery.
Yeah, I did, and I think that only from the sense that players who are starting to get into a serious routine of football need to know its utmost importance and what it can do. I think that it's a good topic to talk about, and even though we can mention it briefly here, we can talk about it in depth in another. And we'll just say, like Arsenal, put into the context of Arsenal's 9-game-long season, or April season. And we're going to say, to get through this like you did, they're probably in between each of these games going to have to do all of the things you just mentioned and manage their diet throughout the month. So here's the thing is like, sleep.
None of that Nando's peri peri sauce from Saka, dude. That's really garbage.
But here's the thing that teenagers need to hear. I saw that. That's really interesting. It's really, I was like, woke up one morning like, I'm not a hot sauce guy, by the way. Spice is tough.
To be honest, I'd try it, bro.
I wouldn't. I don't know. Man, I really don't know if I would.
You wouldn't want to have some of that Saka hot sauce?
No, I'm good. Even though they call it Little Chili, I think I'm good.
They call him Little Chili?
Yeah. That's his nickname, Little Chili. That's why he has that chili hot sauce.
Sounds like a SoundCloud rapper, bro.
Yeah.
Little Chili in the mix.
Alright. But anyway, I'm thinking that one of the things that teenage players really need to hear most as far as recovery goes is sleep is number 1. And I've had this conversation with players recently quite often, where it's like, well, coach, you need my sleep. That's the best thing I can do for recovery. And my rebuttal question to that would be then, well, what time do you normally get to bed? Because yeah, so then a player's major defense to that was, I went to bed late because I had home, whatever it is. But if you went to bed late, well, then you're holding yourself back from getting up earlier. So sleep is number one on the recovery list. It is one of the most important. In fact, if you're not getting as a teenager your 8 hours, you could be stinting your growth and brain development. Because at that age, your brain and body really need that sleep.
Hey, look at us. We're visual representations of that.
Are you saying we're short and we didn't sleep enough?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I would say diet is the second most important.
But before you go to that one, I got an interesting fact about sleep. So, 8 hours, 100%, that's exactly what you need. And actually, your likeliness of injury goes up, and this is statistically proven by the National Institute of Health. I ain't lying. 1.7 times more likely to get injured if you sleep less than 8 hours.
Yeah, you know what? I've been tracking a little bit more with my Aura Ring, which counts all of my deep sleep and lots of data. Tons. It's an amazing product. But like, one of the things is how much sleep that I'm getting has a direct correlation to how good my memory is. You would never think to make that correlation.
Huh? I can see that, especially from what happened this weekend. You know.
Right. Yes. Yes. Exactly that. But it has a direct correlation on memory. So let's say you're not getting enough sleep. Well, then your student athlete is immediately going to have more trouble at school. Immediately. And it's not necessarily something that all teenagers are like gung-ho about, is getting in bed and getting 8 hours of sleep.
No.
They're up late. They're on their phones. They're in the video games. They're talking.
That's the time when everything's happening, you know?
Yeah.
You know.
And so this is where I try to explain that the importance of sleep is there, no doubt. The importance of diet is there, and that's no doubt. We all know the energy that we get comes from the things that we eat and how well that we eat. And if you're a student athlete of any sport, you know this to another level extent, because I'm willing to bet that your metabolism is faster and your diet is more. You eat more. And because of that, you're going to have to manage the foods that you eat if you want to have healthy foods and diet. I think one of the things that players miss on recovery that should be mentioned here, that these guys are going to be doing religiously, is the pull work, the bike work, the rolling out. This you probably don't have at home, but you wouldn't believe it, is really cheap to get on Amazon, is electricity shock stem work. And it's these pads you put on, negative, positive, sends electrical shocks through your muscle. You put an ice bag over the top, and it's a double recovery method. In fact, in college, I did it religiously. So when you are managing a schedule like this, they're probably doing the things I just mentioned as much as they are preparing for each one of these games, if not more. We go back to when we were in Spain, and in between each of those games, how much of that work that we needed to do was about how long, when are we going to the pool, how long are we going to be in the pool, what are we going to do when we're there.
Hydration. Hydration was another big factor in it, and that's not even diet, that's water.
It's diet, because it's what you put in your body as fuel. And you're right, through that whole week, we were like, more bottles.
Dude,
well, how many water bottles can we drink?
probably destroyed half of their supply.
We started making the incentive at the dinner, lunch, and breakfast table, like, how many of these can we kill? How many can we take down?
And luckily we were at a club, like, just popping bottles.
It's a good thing. Glass bottles of water. Bang, bang, next one. And that's another thing I loved about Europe, was their water was in glass bottles.
Oh, that made it bougie.
None of this nonsense. This nonsense.
Yeah, thanks for calling me out. More like
right? The Mexican Sprite made out of glass. Recycle. Don't kill the planet. But yeah, no, this is one of those things. Recovery has a major factor in if we can get from March 31st all the way into April 28th and still play that game against Tottenham with 100% of our ability to win.
And most importantly, hopefully a full squad.
Yeah. And this is so, teenagers, I go back, teenagers need to hear, all players need to hear the importance of what recovery can do for you. And if you actually put in the time, I really think that you're going to be able to recognize the next time you step onto the field, you'll be able to give twice as much. You'll grow twice as much. you'll be able to go twice as long. And maybe it's not twice, but maybe it's minuscule. But each time that you do it, it gets better. So this is my thought, is you're in the gym, you lift 5 times a week. If you were to lift 7, it would probably take you 12 months for your body to show a change in shape, in strength. It would probably take quite a long time. But that's because instead of going 5 days a week and resting for 2, you've gone all 7. You've given your body absolutely no chance to replenish the things that you're tearing apart, to replenish the things that you're taking from it. And so the concept in soccer is the same, it's true. If you're balling for 5 times a week, and I think Chief said it too, it's like people don't consider the load that they put on the players as much, both cognitively and physically. And if you're playing for 5 days a week and you're not spending one of those days religiously attached to recovery, you're going to get injured. It won't last. Your soreness will hold you back from growing as much as you'd like. The things that you're trying to be accomplished you're probably going in the opposite direction. And so when you finally recognize the power of a good recovery day, you never go back. You do it every single time. Because the difference between you on that day after recovery, if you did it, versus you on that day after, if you didn't do your recovery, are 2 massively different beings and what you're capable of on that day.
And until you do that recovery, you'll never know.
Exactly.
So you gotta even put yourself sometimes through the extra pain of, oh man, I don't want to go to the ice bath. Oh, I don't want to go do extra work with the roller. I'm sore or whatever. XYZ excuse you can make up, like you were talking about.
And you just
excuses.
mentioned another great one, which is the ice bath. Is another great recovery method. And this is, now we can do it on the comparison factor. As your environment becomes more and more elite, and there are better people around you, the less that you do it and the more that they do it, the higher they go and the more you stay. And so you start to realize that just like the work that you're putting in on the field, the importance in the recovery room becomes the same work to improve on the field. So we'll go back to and say, like, what can you do? The cycle work, it's amazing. You can take ice baths, it's amazing. You can do ice bag and stem, it's amazing. You can roll out, it's amazing. You can take the day, eat more than you normally would, and sleep all day. It's amazing. These things really have a massive benefit on the way that you're going to be able to go in and play on your next day. Now, I say teenagers need to hear it because teenagers naturally have a ton of energy and they want to go.
And I'd say especially the teenagers here in the States, you know, like with all the stuff that they got going on, they've got girls to talk to, they've got homework to do, they've got training to attend to, they got to be in the car a lot of the time to actually get to XYZ place because, you know, we can't walk the stuff here. I think it's even more pronounced because, well, dang, the infrastructure doesn't help.
That's
at
true.
all.
That's absolutely true. And I think that when they start to recognize the importance of what recovery can do for them as an athlete in their sport, they'll start to prioritize it more. And my wanting to bring it up is simply to just open the conversation to say, hey, just experiment with recovery. The same way you would experiment with your one-on-one drills. You go into the field and you're going to work on this. The same way you'd experiment when you're in your team and you're trying to grow on a certain concept.
So I like that, but then let's not just experiment. Let's also like keep track.
Yeah.
Let's have a little note of what you did, and let's do it very scientifically.
Well, how about not just that? How about you reach out as well to your coaches and the people in charge and ask for ideas on recovery? Because there's also something here, band work.
What I was getting at is like,
can help massively.
Imagine if you do, let's say, the shock with the ice pouches.
Yeah.
Okay? Now you can see, like, you can have your own little, I'm going to work on this variable, and I'm going to see how this variable affects the next day.
Yeah.
And then you're not just doing all these things at the same time, because imagine a player hearing all this stuff. They may get a little overwhelmed. They may get like, oh my gosh, like how am I supposed to do all this stuff while I'm like barely trying to get my sleep right?
Yeah.
So I think breaking it down and being like, maybe, obviously, the more you do, the better, right? But prioritizing which one is better for you based off of the research that you did for yourself.
I would just say, and if you're not doing any, then any of them are a benefit in a step in the right direction. And realistically, you really, until you've rolled out, you don't know how much it hurts when you're doing it, but also how much it helps when you're done, right? And
until you do the ice bath, you'll never know
how hard it is in the first 4 minutes, how cold it can be, how it affects your breathing, and then in the back 6, it's as easy as sitting in a jacuzzi. And that may sound crazy, but that's how our body works. And if you can have someone help you through that time, the first 4 minutes, you're going to be just fine in the back 6. And you get out of there feeling like way better than you were before.
And let's not even talk about it like body-wise. Let's talk about it, you yourself as a person, accomplished. You're not even doing training. You're not doing something that will, you think your body isn't like getting better at soccer. But you have to just set that mental framework of like, I'm doing this to get better.
Yeah.
And I did get better, so now I'm going to be
Here's another thing, and you probably won't try this one until you make it to the next level, whatever that looks like, and you have a full-on ATPT room, but most players are comfortable and are used to being taped on their ankles. And if they have an ankle slight sprain or a little pain here or there, if it's high or low, they get a different tape job depending on how to manage that. But when you're going through an ankle injury, one of the things that I learned in college rehab recovery sessions where that cold and hot therapy were one of the greatest things to, accelerate blood flow to the area. And we can imagine it like this, is you've got a swelled up ankle and you rolled it, let's just say low on the inside. Could be high outside, could be whatever. This one's low on the inside. You're going to start for 60 seconds in an ice tub, your foot in an ice tub. And it's going to shrink. It's going to shrink because all the blood's going to leave the area, it's going to be frozen, then you're going to take your foot out 60 seconds later and you put it in a hot tub. A tub that is literally, it's like a jacuzzi. And you're going to cold and heat therapy. 60 seconds here, 60 seconds here. What ends up happening to the ankle is it expands and it contracts, and it expands and it contracts. And as it does that, it acts as it's like a mini heart. It's pumping blood. It's boom, 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 boom. And you can feel like your heartbeat in your ankle.
About to be throbbing like a mofo.
But it is way beneficial for your ankle injury. Because new blood coming to the area really helps injuries repair. So, knowing these things is going out to seek this kind of information and learning it is like taking steps forward in your playing career. And until you recognize, for yourself, the power of your own recovery methods, you might just be a step behind. And this is where I'll empower you to go out and, like you just said, experiment with what those recovery methods may be. Because for me in the gym, I know that, and I love to work out, I know that the 2 days I take off are just as important as the 5 days that I'm on. And if I don't do the 5 days on, I don't get the strength and size difference I'm looking for. And if I don't do the 2 days recovery, I don't get the strength or size difference I'm looking for, which makes them equal in importance, in value. So that's where you have to understand this going forward, right? And by the way, all teams do this. There isn't a team at the top level that isn't prioritizing their recovery within their macro cycle of the season.
Well, at least any team that wants to be successful.
Every team.
And most teams, if they're not trying to be successful, what are they trying to do?
Yeah, well, at the professional level, that's exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
And that's how it should be. And so, as you spend more time in the sport and in the game, you'll recognize the things that we're mentioning here all around you more and more often. One of my favorite things that I ever got to use was this big old, with both my legs. It was like
the tracksuit or like the jumpsuit.
It's kind of like a jumpsuit, but it basically is the cold the cold tub, the heat in the stem, and massager all in one. So you put these big, it's called Game Ready. You put these big pants on, And the first thing it does is it compresses. So now all of a sudden you could barely feel your legs because you have pressure all the way around, everywhere you can imagine pressure. Then that pressure fills up with cold water. And it starts to get really cold, like really, really cold. And somehow they have electrical nodes on that innards. So now the next thing that happens is you start getting shocked. This is cold, pressure, shock. And the pressure then starts to move up and down the leg, and this is where that massage comes in.
I saw like a station of these
It's amazing.
at a tournament.
It's amazing.
And like someone was like selling sessions like in between tournament games to people.
Listen, we didn't have enough of those for the amount of athletes who wanted to use it. Honestly, we were all boys and girls coming in, getting game ready because it helped us get game ready. There's a perfect name for that product. It was a lot of recovery.
That's great marketing, great branding right there.
Yeah. It was a lot of the perfect recovery actions in which we personally needed for the work that we were doing in football for my college team. And you bet your bottom dollar I was in there every day doing something. Something light, but something that would help me for the next day.
That's amazing. Hey, I think this was a good episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to get one of those socks that you got over there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, let's showcase these a bit.
These are little experimental socks here, only because we're experimenting with both embroidery on the top. So here's one with embroidery on it, but
oh yeah, ZJ number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Like CR7, but not as tall maybe.
Oh, this one is embroidered with your name actually. It says Jose.
Oh wow.
This one's a much cleaner
Look at that
version. And still experimenting with other ideas with like heat press, but these are.
We got the logo on it right here. Look at that beauty.
These are slowly coming more and more to life as we experiment more and more on them.
You know, I was trying to ask people what they thought our logo looked like in different sides. So like, let's say if it's like this, what do you think it looks like? If it's like reversed,
right? Okay.
what do you think it looks like?
I think it looks like a man wearing a hat.
That's what he said. My friend said this looks like a Chinese place logo.
A man wearing a hat.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
that. Okay. Flip it. I see a sun rising.
A sun rising.
Yeah.
Oh.
Reflection.
Yeah, with like a beach.
Yes, correct.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And what about like this?
Either vertically on both ways, I see a yin yang.
A yin yang.
Yeah. Whether you put it vertically or both ways vertically, I see a yin yang.
Well, look, we've got 4 colors here. We've got way more than these 4 colors.
12 total.
If your team doesn't have one of our colors, reach out to us. We'll try our best to get you these because guess what? You guys got to be performing not only outside of the field, like with recovery, but get your best performance on the field. Take that. That's all for you guys.
I like that.
I just had to.
I like that.
That's why I wanted it. I just had to.